Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. I am Anne-Marie Jacob, Assistant Professor from Department of Psychology at Christu Jayanti College, Autonomous. Today we are going to talk about the key concepts and principles of corporate psychology. So, before we get into the topic, it's important that we understand what in fact is corporate psychology. So, here we go. Now, corporate psychology, I am going to assume, might be a term that is perhaps new for you. However, I'm hoping that you are more aware of industrial organizational psychology. Now, corporate psychology isn't very far from industrial organizational psychology. In fact, it falls well within the umbrella of IO psychology. So, when we talk about industrial organizational psychology, we are focusing or we are bringing in the concepts of psychology and applying them in an organizational or in an industrial setup. So, essentially, we talk about training and recruitment, selection, or we talk about how to motivate employees, what are the strategies that we can use in order to improve their communication. Now, corporate psychology, as I said, isn't too far from IO psychology. So, when we talk about corporate psychology, it is a very specific branch within that umbrella that focuses specifically in a corporate structure or in a corporate sector. So here what we are trying to do is we are again trying to apply psychological aspects in the corporate structure to improve the workplace dynamics, right? In order to improve the communication that takes place in that workplace, or in order to improve the organizational culture and such. So if you see the slide, it says that it involves applying psychological principles and methods to enhance organizational effectiveness, employee well-being, and overall productivity. So essentially, this is why we are interested in the field of corporate psychology, in order to improve the work environment in which people are working. Now, we will move on to the key concepts of corporate psychology. Here we go. So, in this slide, you can see that we are starting off with employee well-being. Now, even in the introduction, I mentioned why it is important that we are studying corporate psychology, because we want to take care of employees who are working in an industry or in an organization. Because if you understand psychology, right, if we just look at the word psychology, there we are trying to understand the behavior of people. Now, these very people are the ones who are working in any corporate sector. So, therefore, it is important that we apply the concepts of psychology and, put them in the structure of any corporate. So we are starting off with employee well-being. We want to make sure that our employees are physically, mentally, emotionally, they are doing well at any workplace. So that is our first, or that is the first concept that we are focusing on as part of corporate psychology. Then we move on to engagement. Now, these people, the employees that we have in our workplaces, we want to make sure that they are enthusiastic about the work that they're doing. We want them to be committed so that we can get a better output as a corporate. So therefore, we want them to be engaged. So how can we do that? We can build a positive culture in the workplace. We can make sure, or we can provide a structure wherein they can grow, they can develop professionally. So from one stage to next step, and so on and so forth, so that there is something to look forward to at all times. And then we want to recognize the work that they're putting in. So all of this will contribute in helping them become more engaged with the work and thereby become more committed to their organization. Next, we have leadership. So we want our leaders, so say the top management or the CEOs or CFOs or all the people who occupy the higher tiers of hierarchy, we want them to establish or uh, be good leaders, to create an environment which is supportive of employees' well-being and their engagement. Next up, we have communication. Corporate psychology also focuses on developing good communication, helping employees to be open, to be effective while communicating whatever feedback they have, or say they want to, maybe they have come up with an idea which they want to share. So creating a space for employees and the management to communicate between themselves is another concept that corporate psychology focuses on. And what this essentially does is that it helps strengthen the workplace relationships. Moving on, we have few more concepts of corporate psychology that we would like to focus on. So here we've got diversity and inclusion. Now and I want you to think about this in the context of India, for instance. We are a diverse group of people, right? So if you'll see at any workplace, you'll have people coming in from different states of India. So we want to address this diversity. We want to make sure that our organizations or our workplaces are inclusive of all the people. Now, this was just regions that I spoke about, but inclusion also in terms of the representation of male and female, or inclusion in terms of say perhaps religion, inclusion in terms of languages, inclusion in terms of the one that we began with, regions. So we want our organizations to cater to the diversity and that we have in our country, or any country for that matter. And then we want to build a place that is inclusive of all the differences that we have from one person to the other. So the reason why we want to create such a space is to promote an inclusive work culture, so that we can create a community of people, or a work community of people that is collaborative, that can see each other eye to eye, and can get or collaborate on ideas together without any differences. So that is that. Then we move on to change management. Now this one, let us trace our steps back to COVID-19. So if you go back to that time, you'd remember how everything very quickly shifted to an online platform, right? So change management essentially talks about, say that there's a massive shift in how you want to perform the work. So again, as I said, if we go back to COVID-19, everything, most of the things until then was offline, right? But suddenly, because of that pandemic, we had to change the ways we were working. So everybody, a lot of the organizations had to switch to online platforms, right? So change management is essentially when we want, there are some massive restructuring or technological shifts, and we want to create a space to incorporate those changes, and we want our organization to function when such shifts happen. So change management is essentially that. Another example, since I mentioned restructuring of an organization, can also cause change management or requires change management. So in those terms, an example that will be helpful to understand is, say that there is somebody in the top management who is, let's say, retiring. So who is going to take his or her position now? So that is also, that falls under restructuring of the organization. So corporate psychology also caters to this change. So change management then becomes an important part of corporate psychology. Then talent management. So within organizations, we have people coming in with different skill set. So we want, as an organization, we want to build on that skill set, help them turn into better employees, high potential employees, and we get there through training and helping them plan their career out. So that is another way in which corporate psychology comes handy. Then lastly, we've got organizational development. So corporate psychology, now if you combine all of these points together, you will see essentially at the end of it all, we want our organizations to develop. We want to create a space, or we want our organizations to keep improving, to keep adapting to the changes that happen in our environment, so that we can take our organization to a better functioning level wherein we can get more and more output. Now, with that, we are done with the key concepts of corporate psychology, and we move on to principles of corporate psychology. So, the first one, again, now the difference between key concepts and principles of corporate psychology, I'd like to start from there. So, when we talk about key concepts, we're just looking at what are the areas that corporate psychology focuses on. But when we talk about principles of corporate psychology, there are few things in corporate psychology that we cannot go without, or we cannot ignore. So these ones which are mentioned on the slide are the ones that we are focusing on in as part of principles of corporate psychology. So first one is employee centered approach. So consider yourself as a corporate psychologist. So these are some things that you cannot ignore. So we are starting off with employee centered approach. The first one is it prioritizes employee needs by creating a supportive, respectful, and well-being focused work environment. So as a corporate psychologist, you want to cater to your employees, right? The employees in the workplace. You want to develop a space for them which values their being, which values the skill set they're bringing, the output that they're giving. So that is one crucial aspect of corporate psychology. Then evidence-based practices. You want to make sure that you're getting feedback from employees time to time, that you rely on the data that you're gathering. So that is all of this you're doing because you want to improve the decisions that you're taking in the organization. You want to improve the work conditions of the organization. So we are not basing our decisions or creating interventions just on hearsay. We want concrete evidence to make any decision. So that is why it is an essential principle of corporate psychology. Then moving on, we have continuous improvement. So that is one important principle of corporate psychology, because there, as previously mentioned, there'll always be changes. For instance, going back to that COVID-19 example, there'll always be something or the other that happens in the environment. When I say environment, I want you to consider the political system of around us, or the social systems around us, the laws and the policies, all of those things. So all of those things have an impact on the organization and in the workplace. So therefore, you want to keep keep an open eye and look at the changes that are happening around you, and then based on those changes, and also technological developments. So you will notice that how things keep on changing, especially in terms of technology. There's something or the other that is coming in every now and then. So as corporate psychologist, you need to make sure that you're consistently keeping an eye on all of these things and making improvements in the organizations as these changes keep happening around you. All right, next up we have collaboration and teamwork. So this is related to the previous points that we had discussed. In fact, it is also continuation, or you can also understand this from the point of view of diversity and inclusion. We can even club the two together. So essentially, when you want to create a space which is diverse and inclusive, which is equal, or you want to create a space where everybody feels that they have equal opportunities, when that happens, it will lead to more collaboration and more teamwork. So you want a space, a workplace where people feel that they can collaborate with each other, create better outputs, come up with better ideas. So as a corporate psychologist, these are the two things that you cannot let go of. So, collaboration and teamwork encourages teamwork, open communication, and cooperation among employees, managers, and stakeholders. And diversity and inclusion, saying that you want to create space which values diversity and equality, ensuring a workplace culture that respects and embraces differences. And finally, you have authentic leadership. Again, connecting back to what we previously discussed, that at the higher tiers of hierarchy, or even say in a team, you might have a team lead, or maybe just a manager. You want these people who are taking up the roles of leaders to be authentic in their role. We want these leaders to be ethical, to be transparent, so that people have trust in them, and that because when you'll have such kind of individuals, there'll be more integrity in your organization. So, with that, we are done with the key concepts of corporate psychology and principles of corporate psychology. To summarize it quickly, in the key concepts of corporate psychology, we looked at employee well being, engagement, leadership, communication, diversity and inclusion, change management, talent management, and organizational development. And in principles of corporate psychology, we spoke about employee centered approach. So, this is when we talk about principles of corporate psychology, we are looking at it from the lens of you being a corporate psychologist, right? So, we want you to focus on employee centered, we want you to take an employee centered approach, we want you to focus on evidence based practices, we want that this person, the corporate psychologist, focuses on continuous improvement. And collaboration and teamwork is another aspect, diversity and inclusion, and finally, authentic leadership. Of course, corporate psychology goes beyond whatever we have studied here today, but this is just to give you an introduction of what are the key concepts and principles of corporate psychology. I hope you understood from this lesson today. Thank you so much.